In today's video, we're going to be diving into our current conditions. There is actually a whole lot going on here that we're going to talk about. Obviously, we have those big East Coast snowstorms that are possible later on in the pattern as we enter into January and as we enter into 2023, which is all starting tomorrow. So happy New Year's Eve and happy New Year's. I will be telling you that again tomorrow. Let's get this year ended on a good note here, talking about the weather, and we're going to start next year on a good note as well. Tomorrow's video, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an upload, by the way. You can even hit that bell icon. I never mentioned that in the beginning of the video, but there I go. We're closing out the year on an interesting note there. We do have this storm system in general that's happening here. We actually have one off of California. We have one up here in northern Canada. So we have this kind of duo of storms occurring here. We see this one here is causing the storminess in here, and actually the southern extent of this one up in Canada is the one causing the precipitation there in Oregon and Washington. And actually, if you were to look behind this one, we have this cold front here, and then we actually have another low back here with another cold front behind it, and this warm front kind of attaches here. We have multiple storms here off the west coast, so there's going to be persistent storminess for this region for days and days to come as we have this train of storms on the way. As you can see, per usual, we have lower elevation in more valley regions, seeing those rainfall and actually heavy rainfall in some spots, especially in the San Francisco Bay Area and up near Sacramento as well, where we see these yellows and oranges. We can see for the Sierra Nevadas, especially the northern Sierra Nevadas, we have heavy snowfall occurring up and down this mountain range here, and this is causing a quickly accumulating snowfall that we've been seeing for days, and we're going to continue to see for days. We do see some snowfall showers around for the Rockies. This seems to be a common occurrence this winter and every winter since the beginning of time. We can see that as we take a look at the upper Midwest, we have another low here, mini warm front, mini cold front, a little mini storm in general, causing a miniature area of precipitation here, snowfall showers, rainfall showers, mostly just showery activity there. We do have this cold front along the eastern United States with multiple lows. So we see the cold front here, the warm front way up here. We have a bit of a stationary front in this region of the United States. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the important thing to note with this cold front is, yes, there is some slightly colder temperatures behind this. But look at our south here. We have this warm front already pushing northward, and this is already going to resurge the warm into the east right as the cold is arriving. So the fact that there's already a warm front on the southern extent of this cold front is a sign that this cold is not going to last long at all, and it's not going to be intense either. So this is kind of a cold front on paper, but not something you're going to go outside and really feel, if that makes sense. Now, we have this frontal boundary back here. We have our more stationary front located along the eastern United States, and this is creating dense fog for a lot of the mid-Atlantic. And also, it's creating this train of storminess heading up the East Coast and more inland near the Appalachian Mountain Range as well. We're seeing these storms just head northward all the way up into New England, where there's been a little bit more dry conditions, but things are filling out over the last couple of hours. These are all some interesting things to watch from west to east. There is some very interesting weather occurring today on New Year's Eve. We did anticipate this eastern storminess to occur and a lot of storminess out west days and even weeks ago. So none of this is really coming as a surprise. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just move on and talk about the upcoming weather, where we'll dive into the model guidance real quick. Now, as we dive into things, we're just going to take a look at the new year. Okay, so we're starting 2023 here off on a drier note than we ended 2022 on here for the eastern United States, but there is a larger storm system here in the southwest, and this is kind of kinking the trough just like this. So we see right around that low is where we see that really strong curve here in the trough, and this is kind of just going to ricochet this storm to the north really quickly. So we see a southern Rockies snowstorm out here, even a northern plains snowstorm as well happening, very major in fact. And we're going to see this drop all the way to a 992 over Iowa. Bit of an ice storm as well, ice and snow storm. So we're seeing a bit of a mixed bag here. Certainly going to be a messy storm to say the least. And just talking about the details here, we see very heavy snowfall for Nebraska, South Dakota, especially there in Minnesota, northern Iowa, northern Wisconsin, and the upper peninsula of Michigan. And with this low, we do have this cold front underneath, warm front up here, and then we have this surging warm air bringing some of this storminess out ahead of the storm. The cold front hitting that from the side is going to lead me to believe that we could have a severe weather event here in the coming days for the 2nd into the 3rd. Here's the 2nd right here, where we could have a bit of severe weather down here. The 3rd, I'm eyeballing, obviously, our more Dixie Alley area, going to be the deeper south here, seeing the potential for that severe weather. And then even on the 4th here, wouldn't be surprised if we see some thunderstorms or perhaps more minor severe weather here in the southeast, or major, perhaps. You can't rule anything out. But Wednesday the 4th here is when we're taking a look at this. And the jet stream is going to be doing about like this. So we're seeing our low right here. Warm air surging northward for the east, but there is some cold air rolling in. And unlike the cold front that we're seeing currently in the current conditions that we took a look at a minute ago, this cold front is actually going to bring deeper cold. As we take a look at the 5th, here we see snow showers up and down the eastern United States as cold air has returned to the east for around the 5th into the 6th. That'll be a Thursday, Friday time frame. And then even into Saturday the 7th here, we see another type of snowstorm here taking place, more minor in fact. And then the 8th to the 9th, we start to see something perhaps happening as there is a low offshore. Certainly interesting to take a look at, but through the 5th through the 10th, it does look a little bit cooler during that time frame. Now, for comparison's sake, I do want to show you guys the GFS, because right around that 5th time frame, we see something interesting happen. We do have a low developing off the Carolina coast here, and this is going to do more of a riding up the coast type scenario. We do get a pretty exclusive, more minor snowstorm, but it is for the eastern corridor of the United States between the 5th and the 6th of January there. We actually see that cold subside, but get worse as we take a look around the 11th, where we get another coastal low forming there. A bit of a positive P&A look here on the GFS model. It'll be interesting to note that there could be some warmer air taking place out west here, which would help this cold dive further into the east. But we do get another coastal snowstorm here, pretty exclusive coastal snowstorm there, and that is a little bit more major this time around, dropping all the way down to a 994 millibar low pressure center. And then we get a couple of these southern sliders targeting this area. Take this with a grain of salt, as this is an unusual storm track. But we do get back-to-back little snowstorms that look like that. And then we're left with a bit of a question mark with a jet stream that looks about like that. But take it with a grain of salt. This is very far out, but certainly interesting and fun to take a look at here. Now, as we take a look here at the total precipitation through the next 10 days, anywhere in the whites, practically no precipitation. Your grays, 1/10 of an inch or less. Greens, 1/10 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. Your blues, 1/2 an inch to an inch. Your yellows, 1 inch to 2 inches. Reds, 2 to 5 inches. And then your browns there, 5 to 10. Even 10 to 15 inches here for some of these Sierra Nevada regions in California. When you translate that into snowfall, it reaches over 300 inches here for the Sierra Nevada. Still, we've seen snowfall over the past 5 days, and it's been showing 300 inches every single day. So we keep seeing the snowfall train continuing. And like I mentioned earlier on in this video, there's plenty of lows still in the Pacific Ocean heading towards the United States here. Certainly interesting to consider. Now, anywhere in the grays is a dusting, if anything. Blues, 2 to 6 inches. Purple, 6 to 10. Pinks, 10 to 20. Pastel blue is going to be 20 to 35 inches there. And then your pastel pinks, like we see over the Sierra Nevadas and the Cascades and British Columbia as well here, that is going to be 35 inches plus. But again, there is a maximum of 301 inches somewhere in there, which is going to be somewhere for the Sierra Nevada mountains, which is just, I can't even imagine it. So I don't even have words to describe it. Now, the temperature pattern is not going to be as brutal as what we saw in December. I will preface this by saying that, but some abnormally cold air, but semi-normal, is going to take place, but colder than your average temperature, if that makes sense. So we see the warmth is heading out right around that 4th, 5th time frame. That's been the point that we're kind of watching for the change. We've been talking about that for a week or so. We do see the cold air move in, and this is your European ensemble model. This is the one that's been kind of holding off on showing the cold. And finally, we're seeing more persistent and more consistent cold up and down the eastern United States and even into Canada there, at least from the 6th into the 8th time frame, which will give us a nice 3-day cool down. And then we get this averaged outlook, and I've talked about this time and time again, but really we're seeing the light blues and the light yellows, and nothing really aggressive here. And an ensemble model is just that. It's an ensemble. It's 30 different members here from your European ensemble model. And those 30 different members are all putting different opinions out there. They're all slightly different from each other. So we see that it looks like a normal temperature map here at the beginning because all of them know exactly what's going to happen in 6 hours from now, which is exactly what this is. But, you know, once you reach 360 hours out, they all start to head in different directions. There's probably plenty that show cold up here, plenty that show warm down here, and it all ends up averaged out. A majority show cold down here and a majority show warmth up here, but there's still 30 different opinions happening, so you are getting those differing opinions which average it all out, you know, and make it less aggressive and therefore less accurate at this point. And I see this become averaged out right around the 10th or around the 240-hour mark, which is going to be about 10 days. So right as we reach beyond 10 days is when it starts to just do nothing really, which is a telltale sign to me that it's you know, losing its accuracy quickly. So that is all something to consider. Be sure to subscribe. We will track all of these things daily through the winter and hopefully for years to come. Also, again, like I said in the beginning, hit the bell icon and hit all videos to get daily notifications when we do upload. Also, like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below. And as always, and for another year, I will see you guys tomorrow. And hopefully, again, for years to come, we will be uploading videos. Happy New Year's, everybody. I'll see you guys in the next one.